For this lesson, you'll be taking two pre-cut boards and stacking them on top of each other, placing them in the upper left corner of the rulers, closing the cover. Once you're logged into the computer, go to your canvas, go to your dashboard, scroll down to the FabLab 2020 LBC session. In this lesson, we'll be focusing on the Universal Vls 4.60 Laser Engraver, which is our blue laser engraver in FabLab. Left-click on template.cdr. Left-click on download template.cdr. And you'll notice the template is downloading in the lower left corner. Left-click on the up arrow and select Open. This laser engraver is significantly different than the M300 laser engraver that you may have already used. It uses an updated software of CorelDraw, and it also has a lot of on-screen controls, rather than the manual controls that were on the M300, the actual machine. Your template file in this lesson, what you're going to do is write your name and create a nameplate. We have everything preset from the line thickness to the color to the fill. What you need to do is go over to the text tool in your draw toolbar. Left click on the text and simply drag in this open area here. Left click, hold, and drag a text box. Your cursor is going to be flashing. Just like the other laser engraver, you can zoom close to an area by moving your wheel mouse towards the screen or backwards from the screen. The cursor flashing, we can set, just like any Word document, the font size. For our purposes, let's set it for 100 point font so we can just see what we're typing a little bit better. As much as we would like to see you be creative with your actual font type, when you cut letters out on the laser engraver, they need to be pretty thick. For this lesson, we're going to use Cooper as a font. And type in your last name. If you don't want to type in your last name, you could also type in something like family or classroom, or you could type in your school's name, and I'm just doing all caps. Lowercase letters would also work just fine. I'm going to put my nameplate on my desk and put Mr. Gain. The pick tool in the upper left corner is kind of your go-to icon when you want to exit a command. If I left click on the pick tool to exit out of the selection on the box, I can just simply left click in the blank screen anywhere. If I need to modify the text, I can double click in the text box, back drag, or change the font size, which is not necessary because we're going to change it anyway. Going back to the pick tool, again, I'm going to left click in the blank screen. Our next step is to left click back on our text with a single left click. We're going to go to Object and scroll down to Convert to Curves. What Convert to Curves does is change the text from text to actual shapes. I cannot modify any text. If you need to modify the text, you will have to immediately hit Ctrl-Z or the undo button and change your text. I'm going to go back to Object, Convert to Curves. So now the software recognizes, and all I'm doing is moving it around, clicking, holding with my left mouse button, and dragging it around the screen. Eventually I will put it in here, but I want to make it bigger. I also need to trace the shapes now that form my last name. As my object is selected, I need to come up to the outline pen, make sure it's active, and select hairline, and that will trace my shapes. Next door to our outline pen tip is the fill bucket. I'm going to left click on the fill bucket and hit the big X to state that I want no fill. Previously, the outline, you can see that I changed it. If I went back to none, it would seemingly disappear. Changing it back to hairline will change the color automatically to black. By left clicking on the right down arrow, you can see different colors come up. We need to change our name to red. By clicking on the Show Color Palettes icon, I need to scroll all the way up and scroll until I see red 032C. As it's selected, I know it looks kind of orange, but it does state that it's Pantone red. If I left click on that, it accepts it on my last name, and now we'll cut along with the rest of the item. From here, you can adjust the size. You can see if I left click on the screen, all my adjustment boxes disappear. Left clicking again, I can adjust it accordingly to fit within this area. If you run into problems and accidentally hit something that you shouldn't and accidentally delete it, always go to Edit and Undo. If you accidentally move something, you can also go to Edit, Undo. So if I move, and I'm going to zoom up and select the middle, I'm going to zoom, select the middle, and move it a little closer. Now that we're closer to the box, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one, including the pick tool down, click hold, and you can fly out to a 2-point line. If I select that, I want to click and hold my left mouse button until I get to my second spot. In this case, I can hover close to the edge here until you can see the midpoint active. Click hold on that midpoint with your left mouse button and drag a line down until you get to the next midpoint. And once it's active, let go of your left mouse button. I'm going to go back to my pick tool, select my name, pick up this X, and put it to the midpoint of that line. I would like my name bigger, so I'm going to click on my name and drag it corner to corner proportionately a little bigger, closer to my edges. Do not touch the edge, leave a little bit of space so that your letters can still grab on. I'm going to single left click on my name and make sure that it's still centered out. If it did move off, simply pick it up at the X and move it back to the center of that line. I'm going to left click on that line and delete it before it actually cuts my piece in half. It's just a reference line. If I want to make my name bigger, up and down, you could skew it by dragging up and down. I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to hit the Control Z twice or Edit Undo twice. Now I'm ready to print. If we go up to File, and from that pull-down menu, select Print, the window that pops up, I can bypass any settings within this window. by hitting just print. Now nothing is going to happen until we minimize our screen, our CorelDraw file, and go up to the UCP icon, which is on the top left of your desktop screen. UCP, Universal Control Panel. Double left click to open up your control panel. And here's my print. The M300, the other laser engraver, has a lot of the buttons on the actual machine. These buttons are just on a computer screen. I'm going to turn on the laser engraver, and unfortunately it gets very loud, so I'm going to have to move closer to the microphone to explain. If I hit the little power button, you can hear the laser fire up. While it's initializing with my two pieces in there, I'm going to go to the settings. The settings of the laser engraver, I am going to, just like the chart for the M300, there are a lot of different materials to look through. I'm going to set for wood. If it's not set, you can scroll down into the database, select wood. We're going to select medium wood, and we're going to select birch, because it is in fact birch plywood. The material thickness is next. Each piece, although is 1/8 of an inch thick, and we have two, which is going to be a 1/4 inch thick or 0.25, we do not want to cut through the second one. We did put 3 extra rectangles to cut through the back overall outline, but that's all we want to do. We do not want to cut through our name twice. So our material thickness for this particular project is going to be 1/16 of an inch or 0.0625. If I hit then apply and OK, I can come up and select the big green start arrow. You can hear the machine running, and you can see on the screen exactly what it's doing currently. It's currently doing the small supports, and it typically goes in order of how you drew things or brought things onto the computer screen. The laser engraver is finished, and you can see our runtime is only 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Power off the machine and close the UCP out. Save your file for future uses into your Google Drive or your H drive. Once the laser engraver is actually done cutting your project, lift the cover carefully, take the pieces out. I'd like to point out that one area, the reason why we had it go over 3 times was not just to cut through the front, but also the back piece that it was stacked on. Typically you wouldn't use 2 pieces and stack them on top of each other. The honeycomb lets the smoke pass through just fine, but for our particular project, and you'll see it in a little bit, the reason why we had 2 pieces is we need to line up our name on the back board, and the second burn on that back piece is going to make us able to line up our letters a lot easier. So carefully take the pieces out. This may separate, and that's okay. Lift up the bottom piece, and we'll go into the other lab. To separate our pieces, simply pick up the scrap and set it aside. This is a piece we want to save. This is a piece of scrap. The small little pieces that just fell out of our little holder, those are also scrap. This piece we don't need anymore. As previously mentioned, we ran across this seam 3 times to separate that back piece. So the outside frame is also scrap. Scrap from the back, once again cut through 3 times, and unfortunately this is also scrap. If you'd like to save it and use it for a different project, more than welcome to. The inside of my R and the inside of my A are also scrap. And you can see the reason why we had 2 boards now. The back one got traced, and we're able to put our raised lettering on. I'll give you a little bit of glue and a scrap piece of wood. And once again, you don't have to do this now. If you'd like to paint your letters first and line up later, do that. Or you can paint your background. And you really don't need a lot of glue. This glue is very, very strong wood glue. If you put too much on, you might have a little bit of excess. I do right inside my N, that'll dry enough. While the name's drying, we can put together our little rest. You'll see that the little tiny slots are cut to the thickness and length of our material. If you'd like to put a little glue, but if I ever want to move this or stack it, and always then take it apart. The glue is probably held up enough where I can test it out a little bit and put it right up on the red.